nightmares.
The city wakes up with me. The first thing I hear is water. It slaps against concrete below the edge of the roof in slow, uneven hits. There is always sound here. Flags that no longer belong to anyone flap from bent poles. Loose panels knock against old billboards. Somewhere, metal rubs on metal and squeals whenever the wind shifts. I lie in my faded sleeping bag, stare up at the open sky between two taller towers, and try to guess what time it is from the color. Maybe 7 in the morning, maybe earlier. I stopped counting days a while ago, but I still keep track of mornings. My name is Evan Tarlow. Before everything flooded, I used to deliver noodles, pizza, and whatever else would fit on the rack of my bike. Now I deliver other things. Dried fish, rusty tools that still work, wire, rope, antibiotics when I get lucky and do not fall through a floor. I am not some hero. I charge for everything. I still try to help people though. The trick is to make sure I am not the one who ends up dead for it. I sit up and scratch the side of my face. My beard is patchy and uneven. I cut it with a pocket knife when it starts to get annoying, so it never looks good. The air smells like old river and metal. My camp sits on the roof of what used to be a mid-rise office building on the west side of Manhattan. Years ago, I picked it because the staircase roof hatch was strong. The structure was not at risk of tipping, and the view gave me a clean line over most of the water that swallowed the streets. Back when the water started to creep into basements, a lot of people said it would go down again. Then, the storms kept hitting. The drainage systems clogged, transformers blew, and the subway tunnels turned into underground rivers. Now, from where I sit, I can see only the upper floors of most buildings. The old streets are canals. The Hudson and the East River are no longer separate things. They swallowed the low parts and met somewhere under what used to be Midtown. The tops of traffic lights poke out of the water here and there. Rooftop edges sit at the level where sidewalks used to be. When the wind is low, I can see the tops of cars and buses under the water, covered in a brown film and coated with slimy growth. The city did not disappear. It just sank enough to change the rules. I roll the sleeping bag, tie it with a piece of cord, and stash it in the plastic storage bin that used to hold printer paper. Everything gets a second life now. My little camp has 3 pallets laid side by side, a tarp slung over a metal frame to break some of the rain, 2 buckets for catching water, and a small ring of bricks for my cook fire. Next to the wall are my trophies, coils of wire, a plastic crate full of empty jars, a dented saucepan that I protect more than my shoes, and a cracked mirror I use to check how much worse I look each week. I cross to the edge of the roof and look down. My boat waits there, tied to an old metal bracket that used to support a sign. I built it from plywood I found in a flooded construction site and reinforced it with framing from office desks. It is not pretty. The planks do not line up perfectly, and the whole thing creaks whenever I shift weight. But the seams hold. I sealed them with every kind of sealant I could find, then added melted plastic from bottles for good measure. It floats. That is enough. My paddle is an old broom handle with a piece of signboard bolted to the end. On good days, I tell myself I am a professional sailor now. On bad days, I accept that I am a guy with a plank. I tie on the knife at my belt, check that my revolver is in its holster. 6 rounds of 223 grain handloads that I earned in a trade with a guy who used to reload ammo before the world went under, and tuck 2 more rounds in my pocket. That is all the ammunition I have left for it. I do not use it unless I have no other choice. Noise brings attention, and attention in this city usually comes with teeth. My real work tools are quieter. A long metal hook made from a rebar rod bent at the tip. A crowbar. A coil of thin rope with a grappling hook I made from welded together cutlery. A small fishing spear with 3 prongs that I sharpen every few days. I slide the hook and spear into the boat, then climb down the fire escape. The metal ladder rattles as I move. The rust eats at the corners, but it still holds. I have tested every rung on this route more times than I can count. At the last landing, with my boots level with old 3rd floor windows, I lean out and grab the edge of the roof below. The water rises nearly that high now. Years back, you could still see the curb. Now the surface sits just under window frames. The boat bumps gently against the brick wall. I step in and shift my weight slowly until I am stable. The hull sways under me, then settles. I untie the rope from the bracket and loop it around my wrist. One deep breath. My morning commute begins. I push away from the wall with the paddle. The boat glides forward through the brown, cloudy water. Bits of debris float past. A plastic chair with only 3 legs. A paint bucket without a lid. A warped piece of shelving that probably once held company mugs. Every once in a while, something big moves under the surface. Something that is not a car. I have seen enough arms pressed against glass and faces drift up from below to know that the dead do not stay where you leave them. Some are trapped in sealed lobbies that filled with water. Some are hung in stairwells. Some just wander in the dark between buildings, bumping into walls. The first stretch of canal is quiet today. Good. I do not feel like playing games with grabbers this early. Grabbers are what I call the ones stuck in windows or half wedged indoors. Their bodies float up and stay there, arms out, fingers working at anything that passes. If you steer too close, you lose a piece of clothing or a chunk of skin. I learned that the hard way from a scar on my left forearm and a 3-day fever that almost took me out. It was not from the virus. It was from dirty water getting into the wound. The virus is another story. The infected here started slow, like in those old shows where people stumble around and moan. That is what everyone thought this would be. Then some of them got fast. Then some changed their behavior near water. The ones that died underwater sometimes stayed limp. Others moved, mouths opening and closing as they drifted, hands twitching when something brushed them. Some have fungal growths on their faces now, or weird swelling under the skin. The virus and the mold and the city rotting together did something. I do not pretend to understand it. I keep my distance. I head east toward where 42nd Street used to be. My first stop is a tower near what was Times Square. A group lives on the roof there. They grow vegetables in boxes built from old pallets and broken display racks. They collect rainwater in plastic kiddie pools and long gutter pipes all tied together. They pay well for information and small items that they cannot scavenge easily with a dozen people and limited boats. I paddle down the old avenue, weaving between sticking up trash cans and drowned streetlights. A billboard half torn from the side of a building hangs down, its metal ribs exposed, the plastic face shredded by wind and salt. A big head of some forgotten movie star stares down from the remaining piece of vinyl, one eye missing. I look away. I do not like being watched, even by print. On my right, the glass front of an old luxury store lies broken. Water pours in and out of the opening with each swell. A few mannequins float inside, pale arms bobbing up and down. One of them has no head. I check for movement. Sometimes the dead get tangled in clothing racks and hang there, jerking and scraping. Today the only motion inside that space belongs to mannequins and drifting cloth. Good enough. I continue straight until I hit the first real hazard of the day. A city bus sticks halfway out of the water, tilted on its side between 2 buildings. It has been there for years, wedged by something I cannot see. The upper windows hover just at the surface. Sometimes, when the weather changes, bubbles rise around it. That is usually a sign that one of the passengers is still active in there, even after all this time. The air pockets keep some of them going. I give it a wide berth. As I pass, a pale hand presses against the glass just under the waterline, fingers splayed, nails dark and worn. Morning commute is packed, huh? I mutter. Talking out loud is a bad habit, but it keeps me sane, or at least it helps me pretend I am still sane. Beyond the bus, the water opens into a wider space. Here, where Times Square used to blast noise and light at all hours, only the tops of the taller buildings remain. The huge screens are dead, hanging like dark tiles around empty windows. I slow down and scan the edges, checking for movement on rooftops and at open windows. A faded red tarp draped across one balcony acts as a marker. That is my destination, the rooftop garden people. I angle the boat through the gap between 2 facades and hook my rope onto a rusted balcony rail. Above me, a head appears. Sarah squints down into the light. She is in her 30s, hair tied back with frayed cloth, skin burned darker than it probably used to be, hands always dirty from soil and work. She wears the same sun-faded windbreaker I remember from our last trade. "Evan," she calls. "The one and only," I answer, "unless someone cloned me, which would be a mistake." She snorts and disappears from the edge. A moment later, the roof hatch clanks, and she comes down the narrow metal stairs to the balcony. The building used to be a hotel. The balconies all look over what was once a busy intersection. Now they open over silent water. "You are early," she says as she reaches me. "We were not expecting you until later this week." "Woke up with nothing to do and figured I should disappoint someone as soon as possible," I say. "What have you got? What do you need?" Her expression tightens. Not angry, not upset, just serious. That is always a bad sign. "It is not just trade this time," she says. "We have a problem." "Everyone who tells me that ends up asking for something expensive," I say. "Start with what you are offering, then hit me with the sad story." She points up toward the roof. "We increased the beds. Lettuce, beans, potatoes, some herbs. We can give you a crate of mixed vegetables, dried, plus some salt we boiled from water while the sun was hot last week. Also 2 packs of painkillers. Real ones, not expired by much." I raise my eyebrows at that. "You must be in trouble if you are waving painkillers at me," I say. "All right, what is the job?" "We lost someone," she says. "Mark. You met him once. Tall, shaved head, always asking questions." I remember. Mark was the one who examined my boat from every angle and kept asking how I sealed the joints. He had the kind of nervous energy that made you want to move away from him before he did something stupid. "He wanted to scout further north," Sarah explains. "Another group sent a flare 2 nights ago. East side, near what is left of the United Nations building. We saw it from the roof. They did not have a boat, so they sent a flare and tried to flag someone. We argued about going. Mark insisted. He took the small raft and left at first light yesterday. He did not come back." "Did you hear anything?" I ask. "Gunshots, shouting, anything?" "Nothing," she says. "We watched the skyline. No sign of him. No more flares. We do not have anyone else who knows the routes on the water. Not that far. You do." "So you want me to go look for him," I say. "Or his raft. Or his body." She nods once. "If you find him alive, bring him back. We will pay with everything I mentioned. If he is gone, we still want to know. Bring back whatever you can. His clothes, his pack, anything." There is a part of me that wants to decline. A search mission means time, fuel. That means my arms and shoulders. Risk, contact with infected, contact with other survivors who might not want to witness. I could just stick to my normal route and pretend I never heard about Mark's trip. "You know I do not work for feelings," I say. "I cannot pay for firewood with sadness. That is a long way. East side is messy. A lot of collapsed structures and tight channels." "I know," she says. "That is why we are offering the painkillers. And more, if you ask for it. But there is another reason you might want to go." "Go on," I say. "Mark said that when he looked through the binoculars, he thought he saw another boat near there. Not a raft, something with a motor. Dark hull, moved faster than your plank." I feel myself go still. For months now I have seen signs of someone else on the water. Wakes that do not match the wind. Ripples against the sides of buildings at odd hours. Once, in the middle of the night, a distant buzz of an engine that cut out as soon as I sat up. Whoever runs that motorboat is careful. I have never seen it up close. "You sure he was not just seeing things?" I ask. "He was stubborn, not blind," she says. "He believed it enough to insist on going. You have mentioned hearing an engine before. If someone else is running that kind of setup, you will want to know who it is." I hate that she is right. A motor changes everything. Speed, escape, the ability to tow larger loads. But an engine needs fuel and maintenance, and noise draws infected from every corner. Whoever runs that boat has resources and confidence. That usually means someone dangerous, or desperate, sometimes both. "All right," I say. "I will take a look. No promises. If I find your boy in a zombie's mouth, I am not wrestling him free for a trophy." "Just bring back what you can," she says quietly, "and come back yourself." "Coming back is non-negotiable," I say. "Who else will collect your vegetables?" She passes down a small canvas bag with dried slices of potato and strips of something green that smells strong, plus a tin with the painkillers. "Advance payment," she says. "The rest when you return." I stash the bag under the boat bench, tuck the tin into the inner pocket of my jacket, and push off from the balcony. The rope slides free of the railing, and the boat drifts back into the open water of the drowned intersection. East Side, United Nations. Unknown boat, missing idiot. Good start to the day. I turn the bow and begin to paddle through the maze. Heading east from Times Square means crossing what used to be Midtown. The tops of skyscrapers crowd close, blocking some of the wind. The water down here is calmer, but also full of junk. Pieces of floating foam bump against the hull. Once in a while, the paddle taps something hard just beneath the surface. I slow each time that happens. Watch for any sign of pale skin or flailing arms. I decide to cut across through a side channel that used to be a cross street. On my left, the upper levels of an office tower show rows of empty desks through broken windows. Chairs float near the frames, pressed up by water. Some of them carry dark shapes slumped in them, the clothes long melted away. The bones cling on, held together by something that is not skin anymore. There is no motion there. Whoever they were, the virus does not have enough left to move. On the right, a residential building stands at a slight angle. One corner sank deeper. That is the problem with these old towers. If the base gave way in the flood, the whole thing leaned. Some fell. This one held, but only just. Its windows show crooked lines. Curtains hang at slants. On the 10th floor, a balcony door lies open. I see a shadow shift. I stop paddling. The boat continues to glide, slowly losing momentum. Something moves near the rail. A head rises above it. Skin grey and split in places. Mouth slack. Eyes milked over. It hears the hollow knock of the boat hull on some hidden object and turns toward the sound. Fingers curl around the balcony rail. It leans out. I grip the spear. "Do not fall," I murmur. "Stay inside. Watch the view." It groans, a low, broken sound, and reaches further. The balcony was not built for this. The rail wobbles. Rust flakes fall into the water. The infected tips more weight out over the gap, hungry for anything that moves. Then the rail gives way with a sharp tearing noise. The body drops. For a second it is a blur of limbs, spinning, then it hits the water with a heavy splash a few yards from my boat. Dirty water surges toward me. Some of it lands on my jacket. I twist the boat sideways with the paddle to ride the wave, instead of letting it flip me. The hull rocks hard under me. The infected does not sink. Not fully. Gas trapped inside lifts it back to the surface. It flails, arms striking at nothing, jaw working. It does not speak. Some infected still produce strange noises, half words, broken sounds from memory. This one has nothing left. Just hunger and reflex. It thrashes, sending splashes toward the boat. I adjust position, plant my feet wider. When it floats closer, I jab the spear down, putting all my weight behind it. The prongs punch through the skull with a wet, cracking noise. The body jerks once, then loses all tension. The water closes over its face and pulls it down. The spear tip catches for a second, then slides free. I pull it back, wipe it on the side of the boat. "That is what you get for leaning," I say. "You should have respected balcony safety guidelines." I paddle away. My hands smell like rust and stale water. I will wash them when I get to a clean rain barrel. For now, it is one more body in the city's deep, dirty soup. The closer I get to the east side, the more wreckage I see. A building farther ahead has a huge chunk taken out of its lower floors. At some point, something exploded there. Maybe a gas main. Maybe someone tried to clear infected with explosives and forgot how gravity works. Whatever the cause, chunks of glass and concrete rise from the water in jagged shapes. I slow and steer between them, careful not to scrape the hull too much. If I punch a hole in this thing miles from my camp, I will be sleeping on a balcony tonight. A noise reaches me, carried by the wind from farther ahead. A distant rhythmic thump. I stop and listen. For a moment I think it might be an engine, but the pattern is wrong. It is not constant. It comes in bursts. Thump, pause, thump, thump, pause. It is more like someone hitting metal with something heavy. That could mean a survivor signaling, could also mean someone trapped, or raiders working on a barricade. I do not like any of those options, but I asked for this when I agreed to look for Mark. I keep moving. Soon the old skyline of the United Nations area comes into view. The big complex the world used to watch for speeches now sits with its lower floors underwater. Flags that once lined the plaza rotted away years ago. Only the poles remain. Some have fallen over. Others stick out at odd angles from the water, bending under new weight. Pieces of rope knot around them. Some have plastic bags wrapped around their tops. I can see why someone would choose this area as a place to send signals. The open space around the buildings gives a wide view. I circle one of the poles and keep my eyes on the buildings around it. On the roof of one tower, something moves near the edge, then freezes when I look up. I raise one hand. No sudden moves. I am just one guy in a wooden boat. It is not exactly an armored threat. A figure steps into full view. A woman, from the way she stands and the shape of her frame. She has a rifle slung over her shoulder and a bandage wrapped around one forearm. She does not wave. She also does not shoot. That is already above average for first contact in this city. I cup my hands and shout, "Morning! I am just passing through, looking for a man on a raft. Went this way yesterday. You see him?" She does not answer. Instead, she lifts the rifle and points it somewhere behind me. I spin in the boat. In the distance, between two towers to the south, I see it. A dark shape sitting low in the water, half hidden by the walls. Too big to be a raft. Too compact to be a barge. That is a boat. I can just make out the outline of a small cabin and an outboard motor. It is tied off to a concrete balcony that used to be part of an office level. From this distance, I do not see anyone on it. When I turn back to the roof, the woman is gone. "Of course," I mutter. "No one ever stays where I can see them. That would be too easy." I paddle slowly toward the boat. Every instinct I have tells me to be careful. This is the thing that has haunted the edges of my days for months. The ghost ship with the engine. Someone owns it. Someone who knows how to use it and hide it. That kind of person does not leave it unattended for long. As I approach the balcony, I see another object nearby. Something smaller, wedged between the balcony wall and the main hull of the motorboat. A shape of lashed-together barrels and plywood. That is more in line with what I recognize. That is a raft. I get close enough to see details. The raft is empty. No one sits on it. A coil of rope lies tangled in one corner. One of the plastic barrels has a dent on the side. There are dark stains on the boards. They might be old, hard to tell with all the grime. The motorboat itself is in better shape than I expected. The hull is painted matte black, probably to hide reflections. The motor looks maintained. Not new, but not abandoned. A tarp covers part of the cabin. The ropes that tie it to the balcony are sturdy and not frayed. This thing is in regular use. I let my boat drift a few yards away and hold position with gentle strokes from the paddle. I do not want to tie up next to someone's lifeline without permission. I crane my neck to look up at the balcony. "Hello," I call. "Nice boat. Anyone alive up there?" For a long moment, there is nothing. Just the slap of water against the hulls and distant faint groans from some infected court who knows where. Then a face appears on the balcony. A man in his 40s maybe, hard to tell. He has a short beard and a baseball cap pulled down low. His eyes are sharp. He takes me in with a single sweep. My boat, my clothes, my weapon, my lack of backup. "State your business," he says. His voice is calm. Too calm. "I am looking for a guy named Mark," I say. Tall, shaved head, stupid amount of curiosity. Came out here on a raft from a rooftop farm near Times Square. Left yesterday morning. He did not come back. I promised I would look. The man's gaze flicks toward the raft, then back to me. His expression does not change. "You are late," he says. I feel a tight line settle in my chest. "So you did see him," I say. "Where is he?" The man rests his forearms on the balcony rail. "He came through here," he says. "Saw the boat. Thought he might borrow it. He did not ask. I disagreed. Things got loud. The loudness brought others." "The infected," I say. He nods once. "He ran for that stairwell," he says, jerking his chin toward a doorway behind him. I shut the door before the dead reached the landing. I was not interested in losing my boat over one stranger who did not listen. "Did he make it out somewhere else?" I ask. "No idea," the man says. "He went up. I left. I came back this morning to check the waterline. The raft was still here. He was not." "So he could be on the roof," I say, "or feeding something between floors. Did you check?" The man gives me a flat look. "I do not go back into buildings I had to run out of," he says. "You are welcome to take a look if you want to risk it." I look past him at the dark doorway. The frame is bent. The door has fresh dents. Something hit it from the inside recently, probably more than once. "You lock it?" I ask. "Wedge and chain," he says. "Held all night. But the building is tall. If he managed to get past the infected and ended up locked on the roof, he would not be here telling us about it." "You sound very confident," I say. "I have seen enough," he says. "The ones who panic and run rarely live long." That hits a nerve. Mark might have been an idiot, but he was trying to answer a flare. That counts for something. "What about the flare?" I ask. "People up there still alive?" He shrugs one shoulder. "No idea," he says. "I do not chase every light in the sky. Too many of them lead to empty rooftops and hungry mouths." "I need to know," I say. "I promised his people that I would find out what happened. I do not get paid for guesses." He studies me for a moment. "You trade?" he asks. "I do," I say. "I know the canals, routes to the west, north and south. I know which buildings still have useful stock. I know which ones are crawling and which ones are empty shells." He nods slowly. "I am Roman," he says. "Boat is mine. You do not touch it without my say. You go into that building and come back out alive with real information, and maybe we talk trade." "So I do the dangerous part, and you decide later if I am worth it," I say. "Nice business model." "It works," he replies. I consider telling him to enjoy his lonely balcony and paddling away, but the mission is simple. On paper, go in, look for Mark, confirm alive, dead, or missing. Mark's people pay me either way. On top of that, this Roman character clearly owns the mystery boat. I want to know more about him. If I leave now, I will not get another chance like this soon. "Fine," I say. "You keep your engine warm. I will go say hello to the tenants." I maneuver my boat closer and hook the grappling line on a metal ring lower on the balcony wall. I tie off the other end around a support in my hull. That way, if something goes wrong, the boat does not drift off without me. Losing it would be a slow death sentence. Roman steps back from the rail as I climb up, using small footholds in the concrete. Up close, I can smell him. Sweat, old oil, fuel residue, and something metallic. He carries a pistol on his hip and a knife at his belt, both well maintained. The rifle on his shoulder is an old bolt-action model. He looks prepared, but not overloaded. "You go in alone?" he asks. "If you want to come, you are welcome," I say. I am not paying you if you get bitten, though. He shakes his head. I will cover the door, he says. If something tries to get out that is not you, I make sure it does not get far. That is very comforting, I say dryly. Nothing motivates a man like friendly fire as a backup plan. He does not smile. I shrug and move toward the doorway. The door is dented inward. Chain and wedge hold it closed from this side. That means Roman locked it after he left. Good. At least he is not the kind of fool who leaves doors swinging. I pull the wedge out. The chain rattles. I ease the door open just enough to slip in. A wave of stale air rolls out. It smells of mold, rot, and something sharp that makes my nose sting. Chemicals, maybe. Broken cleaning supplies. The stairwell beyond is dim. Enough light filters through cracks and a dirty overhead window to see. The steps go down toward the flooded floors and up toward the roof. I listen for sound. Nothing at first. Then, faintly, further up, I hear a soft scraping. Something dragging across concrete. I close the door behind me, leaving it unlocked so I can exit fast. Roman can guard the outside. I grip the crowbar in one hand and start to climb. Each step creaks under my weight, dust puffing up around my boots. The building sways slightly with the wind. This is normal. At least that is what I tell myself. On the landing 2 floors up, I find the first mark of recent activity. A smear of dark, dried fluid on the wall, roughly at shoulder height. Not yet fully dried out. Maybe a day old. Could be marks. Could be from someone else unlucky enough to try this path. The scraping sound gets a little louder as I climb. Not fast, not urgent. A slow, steady rhythm. Step, drag, step, drag. Whoever is making that sound is not in a hurry. I reach a landing where one of the doors to an office floor stands half open. The scraping is closer now. It comes from beyond that door. I press myself against the wall and peer through the crack. Inside, desks float near the ceiling where old air pockets cling. The waterline is about waist-high from the doorway. Chairs bump against each other, bump into walls. Near the far side of the room, a figure moves. Its legs trail in the water. One leg hangs wrong, foot twisted backward. The other leg moves in that step drag pattern I heard. Its upper body leans forward, arms reaching for something high up on the cubicle wall. There is a ladder there. One of those foldable aluminum ones from a storage closet. It is set up near a broken ceiling tile, reaching toward an access hatch that probably leads to the roof. At the top of the ladder, clinging to the hatch frame, is another figure. This one is smaller, arms thin, clothes torn, but I can see the pattern of a checked shirt. The person at the top is alive. "Hey," I say softly. The person at the top flinches and looks down. A young man's face turns toward me. Early 20s maybe. Pale from lack of sun. Eyes wide, flicking between me and the infected climbing toward him on the ladder. The infected's fingers scrape against the rungs as it moves up. Its jaw opens, teeth snapping at the air between them. "I am Evan," I say. "I am not here to eat you. Is one enough introduction for now?" He makes a strangled sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "Help," he says. His voice cracks. "Please." "All right," I say. "You let go of the ladder when I say, and try not to fall on your face." I push the door wider and step into the cold water. It soaks my boots immediately. The infected turns its head at the disturbance, but does not stop climbing. It is fixated on the food right above it. Good. That gives me a line. I wade closer. The water hides obstacles. My shin bumps a chair. I grit my teeth and keep moving. When I am in range, I raise the crowbar and bring it down hard on the infected's spine just above the hips. The blow knocks it sideways. The ladder tilts. "Let go," I shout. The kid at the top releases his grip. He drops onto the roof access frame and scrambles inside. The ladder swings fully and slams against a cubicle partition. The infected falls backward into the water with a splash, arms flailing. Before it can orient, I step forward and slam the crowbar down on its head, again and again. until the skull gives way and the movements stop. The water around us turns cloudy and dark. I back away. No reason to stand in that. I wipe the crowbar on a floating jacket and look up at the hatch. "You hurt?" I call. There is a moment of silence. Then the kid appears in the hatch opening again. He looks down at me with disbelief. "Who are you?" he asks. "Local delivery service," I say. "I am looking for someone. Name is Mark. Came from a rooftop farm. You seen him?" The kid's face changes. Guilt, fear, relief, all layered in one. "He was here," he says. "Yesterday. He tried to get us down. There were 4 of us then. We moved too slow. The infected came in from below. He told us to climb up and barricade the hatch. He stayed on the ladder and tried to hold them off. He did not make it." Of course he did not. "Is he one of those?" I ask, nodding toward the floating desks and murky water. The kid shakes his head. "We heard him scream," he says quietly. "Then more splashes. Then nothing. We shut the hatch. We did not open it until now." "How many of you left up there?" I ask. "Just me," he says. "The others tried to climb to another roof with a piece of rope after the noises stopped. The rope snapped. They did not make it either." He looks and sounds like someone at the edge. His eyes dart around, looking for threats that are not there, then snap back to me again and again. He does not trust me yet, but he needs me. "All right," I say. "Stay put. I am coming up. If something grabs my leg from under the water, you can have my boat. Fair trade?" That earns me a weak smile. "Deal," he says. I pick the ladder up from the water, set it back under the hatch, and test the legs. They wobble but hold. I climb, trying not to think about what is in the water below me now. My boots leave wet prints on the rungs. My hands slip once, and my stomach flips, but I regain my grip and push through into the bright light above. The roof is bare, except for a few upturned buckets and a pile of soaked blankets. A small signal fire circle sits cold near the edge. There are chalk marks on the concrete, rough calendars, and tally marks. He has been counting days. I stopped doing that when weeks started to blur. The kid backs away a little as I stand up. He keeps his hands visible, which I appreciate. No weapons aimed at me. That is already a good start. "My name is Liam," he says. "I was an intern here, before. We tried to stay when the evacuation order came. Thought this building would hold. We had supplies on lower floors. Then the water came too fast." That tracks with what I know. The official response did not vanish in one night. At first there were warnings, press conferences, roadblocks. Then the storms kept coming. Transformers exploded, and the water rose faster than the city's official plans. Some people believed in those plans until it was too late. "Liam," I say, "here is the situation. Your rescuer from the rooftop farm is gone. I will tell his people that he did not run. He tried. They will pay me for that truth. I can take you out of here. But you are not free. You pay for transport. I am not a charity." His eyes flash with anger for a second. Then he seems to deflate a bit. "What do you want?" he asks. "I do not have much." "Information," I say. "You lit a flare. That means you saw something worth signaling about." He nods toward the south. "The boat," he says. "We watched it last week. It came in fast at dusk, no lights. It tied up under that balcony. 2 people on board. Maybe 3. 1 stayed with the engine. 2 went into a building across the canal. They moved like they had done it a lot. In and out in minutes. They had packs, weapons, radios." "Radios that work?" I ask. "Yes," he says. "I heard static, voices, different channels. It sounded organized, not just scavengers yelling at each other." "Military?" I ask. "I do not know," he says. "They did not wear uniforms, at least not matching ones, but they had gear that did not come from the bargain bin." I file that away. Organized raiders with working radios and a boat. That could be either a problem or an opportunity, possibly both. And the flare? I ask. Why did you send it? He shifts his weight and looks out over the flooded city. Because the water is rising faster on this side, he says. The base of this building creaks at night. I can hear the structure complain when the wind pushes. I did not want to fall asleep one night and wake up underwater. Or not wake up. I wanted out. I thought someone might answer. Mark did. There it is. That is the whole chain. Desperation, signal, idealist with a raft, engine owner with sharp eyes, infected in stairwells. All right, I say again. Here is what happens next. I get you down to my boat. We go see your neighbors with the motor and see if we can talk to them without dying. Then I take you to the rooftop garden people. They might take you in, if you pull your weight. If they do not, I find you somewhere else to go. In return, you give me all the details you have on those engine people. Every trip, every time, every direction they came from and went to. Deal? Yes, he says without hesitation. Deal. Good, I say. Gather anything you own that is actually useful. No framed photos, no trophies, no souvenirs. Clothes, tools, food, medical stuff. That is it. You have 5 minutes. He nods and moves quickly. He grabs a small backpack and starts stuffing it. A half-empty bottle of water, a thin blanket, a cracked flashlight with extra batteries taped to its handle, a jar with something that looks like dried beans, a small metal tin that rattles softly, probably pills. While he does that, I scan the skyline again. The woman from the other roof is back at the edge, watching us. Roman stands on his balcony near the boat, arms crossed. This little corner of the dead city suddenly has an audience. Ready, Liam says. Stay behind me going down, I tell him. If anything moves from below, you go back up and close the hatch. Do not try to be a hero. We have enough dead ones in this building already. He swallows and nods. We descend the ladder. The water in the office floor is still and brown. The infected I disabled floats face down near the far cubicles. No new sounds. No footsteps. No dragging. No wet slaps. Good enough, we slip back into the stairwell and move down toward the balcony level. Every squeak of the stairs feels louder now. I grip the crowbar tighter, ready to swing at anything that lunges from a doorway. At the balcony door, I pause and listen. I hear the water, the distant groans of other infected echoing through hollow floors, and the creak of Roman shifting his weight outside. Nothing right at the door. I push it open and step out into the light. Roman watches Liam with a judgmental stare. You picked up a stray, he says. I picked up my payment, I say. He has information that you do not. That means value. Liam flinches slightly at the word payment, but says nothing. So, Roman asks, your mark? Dead, I say. He bought this kid a few extra hours by drawing the infected off. He did not leave your motor alone by choice, if that makes you sleep any easier. Roman's jaw tightens for a second, then relaxes. People make choices, he says. Some keep them alive, some do not. The rooftop farmers will want details, I say. They will pay more for the fact that he did not run. They like loyalty. It makes them feel that the world is not completely rotten. You sound cynical, he says. I am alive, I reply. That tends to come with a bit of cynicism when the backdrop is this. I gesture at the flooded skyline. Now, you and I have unfinished business. You want roots. I want information about your little navy. He eyes Liam. You trust him? No, I say. I do not trust anyone. But I listen, and then I decide what is worth using. Something you probably understand. He smirks faintly. Fine, he says. Come aboard, both of you. We talk. No weapons in hands. You pull anything, I cut your line, and let the city decide your fate. That is such a warm welcome. I say. I feel right at home. Still, I do not argue. Opportunities like this are rare. I climb down to my boat, help Liam in. He moves carefully, clearly not used to watercraft, and then guide us over to the motorboat. Roman lowers a rope ladder from the balcony. We tie off and climb aboard. The deck of the motorboat feels strange under my feet. It is solid, not spongy like my patched plywood. The sides rise higher. The cabin doorway smells of fuel, metal, and stale air. Inside, I can see a small table bolted to the floor with maps taped to its surface. Real maps, printed on thick paper, not just my mental ones. There is a shortwave radio mounted to one wall, its wires running to a battery bank made from car batteries strapped together in a crate. Someone put real work into this setup. So this is your kingdom, I say to Roman. Nice toys. Not toys, he says. Tools. Tools keep you ahead of the ones who only have sticks and luck. Liam steps in behind me, eyes wide at the sight of the radio. That works? He asks. Roman nods once. Sometimes, he says, when there is someone worth talking to on the other end. Most channels are just static now, but there are pockets, Coast Guard remnants down south, some group out near Long Island that calls itself a coalition, a few trader nets. No one in charge of the whole mess, if that is what you are hoping for. I step closer to the table. The map shows Manhattan and parts of the surrounding boroughs. Lines in different colors trace routes through the flooded streets and waterways. Some are clearly mine. I recognize paths I use. Others go places I have never risked, piers farther out, broken bridges. A note near the bottom reads, Navy wrecks with a circle off the coast. So you have been busy, I say. You run this alone? Most of the time, he says. Sometimes I work with others. Short-term deals. Nothing permanent. Deal with me then, I say. You give me access to those routes. I give you safe passages through the western canals, latest infected nest locations, and contacts who have real crops. You get food without having to raid, and I get a chance to move faster once in a while. And maybe, if I prove I am not an idiot, you let me learn how to start that engine without blowing us up. You are ambitious, he says. I am practical, I say. The water is not going down. The dead are not getting friendlier. Standing still means sinking. You know that, or you would not have built this floating battery cart. He looks at me for a long moment. In that silence, I hear distant gunfire, faint and muffled by the water and walls. Somewhere to the north, someone is in trouble. This city never sleeps. It just moans and snaps and keeps ruining things. Fine, Roman says. We start small. You take your rooftop farmers a message from me. Tell them I am willing to trade fuel runs to the old storage depots across the river. In return, I get a cut of their harvest and any spare medical supplies they can produce. You deliver their answer back here in 2 days. If you do not show, I assume you are dead or lying, and we are done. If you do, we plan a joint route. 2 days is tight, I say. Storms roll in fast. You want in or not? He asks. I shrug. All right, I say. I have paddled through worse for less. I can work with that. Liam shifts his backpack nervously. What about me? He asks. You are coming with me, I tell him. We will drop by the farmers first. If they take you, good. If not, I know a few other rooftops that might. You work, you eat. No freeloaders. Not on my routes. He nods quickly. I will work, he says, whatever they need. I do not want to be alone again. Then stop talking and start moving, I say. The city does not pause for heartfelt speeches. Roman escorts us back to the balcony. Before we descend, he catches my eye. Do not bring trouble back with you, he says. If you lead raiders or mobs anywhere near this position, I will know, and I will not be forgiving. If I wanted raiders, I would join them, I say. Less rowing. We climb down to my boat. It feels smaller now after standing on the solid deck of the motorboat, but it is still mine. Familiar. I untie the line and push off. As we drift away, I feel Roman's gaze on my back, heavy and sharp. "So that is what a real boat looks like," Liam says quietly after a few strokes of the paddle. "Do not fall in love," I say. "The last time I got attached to something shiny in this city, it collapsed under me. Attachment here is just a slow form of suicide." He goes silent for a moment, then says, "You joke a lot." "It is either that or start yelling at the sky," I say. "The first one scares fewer birds." We retrace my route westward. The sun climbs higher, reflecting off the water in sharp flashes that make my eyes ache. I steer us around the bus with the reaching hand, around the collapsed corner where I killed the balcony diver, through the maze of debris toward Times Square. On the way, we pass a building where someone strung a line of colorful fabric across 2 rooftops. Old clothing, sheets, whatever they had. It dries in the wind. That means someone lives there. Small signs of human life break up the endless repetition of ruined windows and dark water. Once, as we round a corner, a rapid motion in the water ahead makes me throw the paddle across the boat and grab the spear. A cluster of infected breaks the surface, clawing at each other. They must have been trapped in a stairwell that finally gave way. Their skin is pale and split, eyes wild, mouths snapping at the air. "Stay low," I tell Liam. He ducks. I drive the paddle into the water on one side, twisting the hull so we slide past the cluster instead of into it. One of the infected swipes at the side of the boat. Its fingernails leave shallow scratches in the sealant. I stab down with the spear and catch it in the temple. The others claw at their own faces, teeth, anything that moves. They are too tangled in each other to reach us properly. I keep paddling. I do not have enough spear points for all of them. "Do you always get this close?" Liam asks once we are clear. "Sometimes closer," I say. "Sometimes I do not get to leave. Those are the bad days." By the time we reach the rooftop garden building, the sun has shifted enough to cast the taller towers in long shadows over the canals. My shoulders ache from the steady motion, and my fingers have gone stiff on the paddle handle. I ignore it. Pain is just another part of the routine now. Sarah appears on the balcony when she hears the bump of my hull against their rail. She raises an eyebrow when she sees Liam. "You brought a guest," she says. "I brought you an extra pair of hands and some bad news," I say. "Good news too if you squint." We go through it on the roof. I tell her what happened in the office building, how Mark held off the infected so the others could climb, how the rope broke, how only Liam remained. I do not sugarcoat it. She asked for truth. I give truth. It sits between us like another person at the table. She listens without interrupting. When I finish, she closes her eyes for a second, then opens them again. "He was stubborn," she says, "but he cared. Thank you for telling us." She takes a piece of cloth and ties it to the railing. A small gesture, a marker for someone who did not make it back. They have a few of those there already. "Payment," I remind her. She snorts and hands over the rest of the promised goods. Dried vegetables, salt, painkillers. A small jar with homemade ointment that smells of herbs. I stash them in my pack. "And him?" I ask, nodding toward Liam. She studies him. "You know how to work?" she asks him. "Yes," he says quickly. "I can carry, plant, repair, clean. I will do anything you need." She looks at his hands. Soft, more used to keyboards than shovels, but now marked with new calluses from climbing and scraping. "We do not feed anyone who does not pull weight," she says. "I will pull more than my weight," he says. "I do not want to go back to sitting alone and listening to buildings move around me." Finally, she nods. "You can stay," she says. "Trial. You mess up. You are gone. Understood?" He nods so fast I think his head might fall off. "Well," I say, "that is one problem solved. Now for the other." I tell Sarah about Roman and his motorboat, his offer to trade fuel runs for crops and medicine. Her mouth tightens. Engines bring dead things, she says. Noise carries over water. We try to keep this place quiet. I know, I say. But engines also carry more cargo. You want to expand the rooftop farm, you need more soil, more containers, maybe some tools. Getting that on my little plank is possible. But it takes time and a lot of trips. With Roman's boat, you could move 10 times as much in half the time. The question is, how much risk you are willing to take. She looks out over the water. The light catches on the ripples, making the surface look almost calm. It is not calm. It never is. Under that brown skin, the city still churns. We give him a trial, she says finally. One trip. We load his boat. We see if he handles himself without bringing a swarm down on us. If he does, maybe we work together again. If he makes a mess, we cut ties. You tell him that. And you stay clear of his boat if he starts making foolish choices. I do not want to lose you and your roots just because some man likes the sound of his own motor. I like my skin intact, I say. I will not tie it to someone who does not respect physics. We agree on the details, amount of crops, types of goods, where the exchange would happen. A big, flat rooftop nearby with good access and enough open space to see trouble coming. By the time I push off from their building again, the sun is lower in the sky. Shadows stretch across the canals. The sounds of the city change. Day noises fade. Night sounds wake up. The infected do not need rest the way we do, but their patterns shift when the light goes down. They get more active in the dark. Or maybe it just feels that way because my eyes cannot see them as well. On the way back toward my home roof, I pass a cluster of small boats lashed together between 4 buildings. People move between them, passing buckets and crates. A floating camp. Children's voices carry across the water. Laughter, sharp and brief. That sound has teeth now. It hints at hope, and hope always comes with risk. A man on one of the boats raises a hand as I pass. "Evan," he calls, "you have any spare hooks? Lost 2 on a submerged car this morning. Fish will not gut themselves." "Come by my building tomorrow," I shout back. "We will talk. Hooks cost stories now." "You charge too much," he yells. "I am adorable, not cheap," I reply. As I move away, a group of infected gathers at the edge of a nearby roof, drawn by the voices. They cannot reach the waterline from there. They pace back and forth, jaws opening and closing, fingers scratching at the concrete. Their presence is a reminder. Joy in this world is loud. Loud things do not last long if they do not pay attention. When I finally reach the fire escape of my base building, my arms feel heavy. I tie off the boat, climb up, and haul myself onto the roof. My camp waits, unchanged. The tarp flaps. The bricks sit. The sleeping bag is exactly where I left it. Small victory. I store the new supplies, tuck the painkillers into the safest corner of my crate, and sit down on the edge of the roof with my legs dangling over the city. The water below reflects the last light of day in broken lines. Distant groans rise as the infected shift in their nests. Somewhere out near the old bridges, I hear a faint engine for a brief moment, then silence. Today, I found out that Mark died trying to help others. I pulled one intern off a roof and dropped him into a new life of soil and sweat. I stepped onto a real motorboat and met a man who treats this drowned city as a board waiting for his next move. I tied myself into a deal that could make life easier, or end me faster. I sit there on the roof with all of that running through my head until the air cools and the light shifts to that dull grey that comes before full dark. The water below turns from brown to black. Shapes disappear, sounds sharpen. I pull myself up, toss a few small pieces of broken pallet into the brick ring, and coax a thin fire to life. The flames stay low. I never build big ones. Firelight reflects off the metal vent pipes and the rim of the plastic water barrels. Dinner is dried potato and a strip of fish I smoked 2 days ago. It is salty and tough, but it sits in my stomach, and that is what matters. I wash it down with a careful cup of collected rainwater. Every swallow has weight now. I watch the horizon while I eat. To the east, flickers of light show where someone still uses battery lanterns or small fires. To the north, a brief handgun crack jumps between buildings, then silence. Nothing to do about that from here. I run through tomorrow in my head. At first light, I go back to Roman, tell him the farmers said yes, with conditions. 1 trial run, controlled pickup point, no grand gestures. He brings his boat. I bring my smaller one as backup. We load soil, containers, maybe some pipe if we can haul it. Noise will bring trouble, so we keep it quick. That is the plan. Plans in this city last about as long as a dry day, but I still make them. It gives my brain something to organize. Wind rises as the night deepens. The tarp over my camp rattles. Somewhere close, a loose metal sign slams against a wall in bursts. I hear the infected below respond. Their groans roll through stairwells, hollow and broken. They search for the source, bumping into walls and each other. It will occupy them for a while. I lie down in the sleeping bag, pull it up to my chin, and stare up until my eyes close on their own. I sleep in pieces, short stretches. I wake when the building shifts, or when a distant explosion thumps through the skeleton of the city. At one point in the night, thunder rolls over Manhattan. Rain arrives in short, heavy bursts. I slide the water barrels to catch more of it, adjust the tarp so it does not dump a cold sheet of water straight onto my cooking space, and then crawl back under the bag. Morning shows up as a pale smear between buildings. My joints complain when I sit up. I pack the sleeping bag away, check the painkillers in the crate just to be sure I did not dream that part, and wolf down a small handful of dried vegetables. No time for proper cooking. The sky to the south looks wrong. Heavy low clouds stack over the harbor. The line between them and the water is hard to see. That usually means more rain. Maybe worse. Great timing, I mutter. Thank you, weather. Very cooperative. I strap the knife to my belt, check the revolver, and count the rounds again, even though I already know I have 6 in the cylinder and 2 spare. Force of habit, spear, hook, rope, pack with trade notes, and a tiny piece of charcoal for writing. Then I climb down to the boat. The water level sits an inch higher against the wall than yesterday. I notice those things now. The city is still sinking, just slower. The paddle bites into the water. I move faster this time. My muscles remember the route to the east side from yesterday. The bus with the hand is still there. Today the hand does not appear at the glass. Maybe the body finally came apart. The streets are quieter. Even the infected have rhythms. Some mornings are oddly calm, like the city is drawing a breath. Those are usually the days when something bigger hits in the afternoon. By the time I reach Roman's balcony, the clouds have dragged farther overhead. The light feels flat. He is already outside, leaning on the rail, rifle slung, expression unreadable. "You are on time," he says. "Do not sound so shocked," I say. "Farmers said yes. 1 test run. We haul soil and containers from a rooftop supply spot near them. Quiet approach, quick loading. If you bring a parade, they cut the deal." He glances at the sky. "Storm front is moving in," he says. "If we are doing this, we start now. I do not want to steer that boat in a full gale through this junkyard." "You ever tried taking a plank boat through a storm?" I ask. "Keeps you humble." "We will use both," he says. "Mine for cargo, yours as scout. You go ahead, check for blockages and nests. You see anything that looks bad, you signal." "With what?" I ask. "Jazz hands?" He points to a crate at his feet. Inside are 2 small battery lanterns with colored covers, red and blue. Red means stop, nest or hazard, he says. Blue means route clear. You flash them, I respond. "Fancy," I say. "Where did you even find intact lenses?" "Lower floors of a photography shop before it flooded," he says. "Picked the place clean. You would be amazed what survives underwater when it is sealed right." We load the lanterns into my boat along with a short coil of extra rope. Roman climbs down to his motorboat, moves with practiced efficiency, checks the engine, fuel line, and ropes. The motor block is spotted with rust but clean where it matters. He works a hand pump to clear any water from the fuel and then primes the engine. "Ready?" he calls. "As I will ever be," I answer. He pulls the starter cord. The motor coughs, shakes, then catches. A steady roar fills the narrow canal. It feels wrong to hear that much man-made noise here. The sound bounces between the walls, climbs up through shattered windows, rolls into open stairwells. I grip the paddle harder. Instantly, the city reacts. From nearby buildings, groans and screeches answer the engine. Infected pressed against doors start pounding harder. Ones that were quiet on high floors begin to move toward the sound. A few splash into the water from low balconies, arms flailing. The surface froths around them. Roman eases the engine to a lower throttle. The noise drops but does not vanish. I push off ahead of him. My little boat cuts a path while his heavier hull follows. The wake from his engine rolls into me in small waves, giving my plank an extra nudge forward. I do not complain. My arms like the help. We take a slightly different path than my normal one. Roman knows a wider channel that avoids the worst of yesterday's debris. It takes us past an old parking garage, whose top levels now serve as a half-sunk maze. Cars float at odd angles. A delivery truck lies on its side, half submerged, its company logo peeled off. Infected wander along the top level, drawn by the engine noise. Some stumble too close to the broken outer wall and drop into the water. The splash sprays near my boat. "Keep closer to the middle," Roman calls from behind. "You scrape that hull and you will have a new leak to think about." "I will add it to my list of personal flaws," I shout back. The further we go, the darker the sky gets. Wind picks up. The surface of the water roughens. The city starts to whistle and groan as gusts shove against broken glass and metal. I hold the lantern with the blue cover in one hand, when I can, and flash it in short bursts at Roman to signal clear stretches. When I spot a collapsed fire escape hanging low over the water, I raise the red lantern and wave it hard. He steers wider, swinging the heavy boat around the obstacle. By the time we approach the farmer's chosen loading roof, light rain has started. Fat drops smack the surface of the canal. The rooftop itself sits on a former big box store. The parking deck became a garden and storage yard. Sarah and two others stand at the edge, watching our approach with tight bodies and weapons ready. They relax a little when they see me out front. "Noise is worse than I pictured," Sarah calls when I hook onto the side. "You and me both," I say. "On the other hand, look what comes attached to it." Roman brings the motorboat in slow, feathering the throttle. He cuts the engine early and lets momentum carry the hull into position against the wall. The impact is gentle. Ropes fly, hands catch, knots tighten. In a minute, the boat is secure. Up close, the farmers get their first good look. The hull, the battery crate, the radio through the cabin window. I see hunger in their eyes that has nothing to do with food. That is what opportunity looks like here. We work fast. Soil from old rooftop planters goes into tough plastic sacks. Empty barrels and crates come down on ropes and slide into the motorboat's hold. Every thump, scrape and voice bounces across water and stone. The infected answer from nearby structures. Their sounds grow more intense. At one point, a cluster of them appears on the roof of a neighboring building, staring down at us with those flat, blind eyes. One slips, tumbles off the edge, and vanishes into the water with a splash. "We are pushing it," I say to Sarah as we lug another sack toward the edge. "Storm is coming. The dead are already restless. We load too much. We get slow." She wipes rain from her face with the back of her wrist. "One more round and we stop," she says. "We will not get a better chance soon." Roman stands in the boat, arranging cargo with an eye for balance. He moves sacks and barrels so weight sits low and central. He has done this before. 5 minutes, he calls. After that, anyone still on this roof is staying here. We push through the last load. As we lower the final barrel, the sky cracks. A bolt of lightning hits somewhere in the distance with a blinding flash, followed by a deep boom that rattles windows and sends fine dust from the roof edge into the air. the water below jumps in place. The storm arrives without any more subtle warning. Wind slams into us, driving rain sideways. The surface of the canal turns choppy. Waves hit the hulls in quick succession. My little boat rocks hard against the wall. The motorboat yanks on its ropes. "Enough," Roman shouts. "Cut loose or we break something." We scramble. Ropes come off cleats. Knots come free. I jump back into my boat and brace with the paddle as a gust tries to shove me sideways into a drain pipe. Roman starts the engine with a rough pull. It coughs once, then catches. The sound blends with the storm noise now, not as sharp but still there. Infected on nearby rooftops howl and sway in the wind. Some are blown off edges into the water. Bodies hit the surface in every direction. Hands slap at waves. Mouths open and close as dirty water pours into them. The canal becomes a slow blender of limbs and trash. "Stay on my port side," Roman calls. "If you get pushed, you hit me, not the walls." I do not love using another boat as a bumper, but his hull can take more punishment than my planks. I paddle in time with his speed, using his wake to help me. We move slower than on the way in. The loaded weight and the building chop fight us. As we round the corner near the parking garage, disaster finally cashes in on all the noise and movement. A section of the upper level gives way. Concrete and metal rails break free and fall. It happens fast. 1 second the structure is there, sagging. The next, it lets go. The slab hits the water in front of us, sending up a wall of dirty spray. Roman yanks the wheel and kills the throttle at the same time. The boat skids sideways on the water. The wave slams into us. My little skiff rides up the front of it and then drops sickeningly as the water rushes under. For a moment, I lose track of the horizon. All I see is grey sky and black water. My paddle slips from my hands and goes over the side. Instinct grabs at it, fingers closing on the wet shaft just before it disappears. My shoulders scream. The boat tilts as more debris hits nearby. A chunk of concrete nearly as big as me splashes down inches off the bow, throwing another surge over the side. Water floods the floor up to my boots. Behind me, the motorboat slams into a floating car that just got freed by the collapse. The impact jars it sideways and scrapes the hull. I hear wood crack. Roman swears under his breath. He guns the engine for a second, ramming the car out of the way before cutting back. The propeller chews through something beneath the surface. The engine noise shifts in tone, a grinding edge creeping in. "Prop nicked," he mutters, more to himself than to me. We keep going. Fix it later. We hustle out of the collapse zone. Behind us, infected crawl to the edge of the broken parking deck, drawn by the chaos, then tumble off as pieces shift under them. Some vanish straight under. Others surface, thrashing. It is chaos we do not have time to watch. The storm only gets worse as we push west. Rain turns sheets of grey that erase half the city. My eyes sting. I can barely see the tops of the buildings on either side. I navigate by memory more than sight. When I know there should be a traffic light pole under the water, I steer wide. When I suspect a submerged bus, I tap the paddle down in small tests before committing. Roman stays near enough that I can hear shouted words when the wind dips. At one point he calls for a stop and points to the south. Through the gaps in the rain, I spot a cluster of small rafts tied together near the remains of a bridge. Figures stand on them, watching us. Some have weapons. At this distance, I cannot tell if they are rifles or pipes, but the stance is familiar. They are not fishermen. "That is a gang," Roman says. "They control that span. They charge passage. Storm kept them on the rafts instead of the towers. If we get closer, they will try to board or shoot. We cut north through the side streets instead." "We will add their position to the map," I say. "Another thing to avoid." We veer away, letting the rain curtain hide us as much as it can. One figure on the raft points in our direction. Another lifts a weapon and fires a shot. The bullet hits the water 20 feet from my bow and skips, throwing up a small burst of spray. Bad aim or warning shot. I do not inquire. We disappear between towers before they can adjust. By the time we reach Roman's building, I am soaked to the skin. shaking from effort and cold. My boat rides lower from the extra water inside. I bail it with a small plastic container as soon as we tie up. The motorboat's hull shows fresh scars where concrete and metal scraped it, but it remains whole. The engine rattles when Roman shuts it off, then falls quiet. We work in the rain to haul the sacks and barrels up to his staging balcony. He will move them later to trade points. Soil and containers are heavy, but to the farmers they are worth almost as much as medicine. It means more food next season, if the city lets them live that long. When we finally duck into the cabin to get out of the wind for a moment, my fingers barely bend. Roman hands me a rag that might have once been a t-shirt. I wipe water from my face and hair. My clothes will stay damp until I dry them over my own fire later, but even a little less water helps. That went worse than I hoped, and better than it could have, Roman says. We did not flip. The boat still runs. No one died, except whatever that propeller chewed, and I do not feel bad about that. Parking garage disagrees, I say. It gave up on life the second it heard your engine. He actually cracks a small smile at that. You and your comments, he says. You hide fear under noise. I protect my nerves with jokes, I say. If that bothers you, I can switch to interpretive dance, but the boat will suffer. He shakes his head. Farmers will be pleased, he says. We proved the concept. Next trip, we refine it. Maybe we set up a regular schedule. Once a month. Careful, I say. Regular schedules start to smell like a new life. The city hates that. It knocks the board again the second you think you see a pattern. Then we stay alert, he says. We adapt. I know he is right. There is no safety here, only less bad. Little improvements can still matter. More food for the farmers means more to trade with me. More routes for Roman means more options when someone else closes a canal with wreckage or gunfire. It is a fragile web, but it is better than nothing. The storm eases by late afternoon. Rain lightens to a drizzle. The city looks washed but not clean. Bits of new debris float on the higher water. I push off again, heading back to my own roof. My arms protest at first, but the movement warms them. The canals feel different after a storm. Currents change. Trash drifts in new patterns. I take my time, noting new hazards as I go. Near a building that used to be a bank, I see a fresh fracture line along the lower floors. The foundation must have shifted in the night. The tower leans slightly more toward the canal now. Cracks spiderweb out from a broken corner. If it goes, it will dump glass, stone, and steel straight into one of my main routes. I stop for a minute just outside the shadow of its upper floors and watch. Wind pushes against the facade. The building groans. A puff of dust falls from one of the cracks, then nothing. Not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next month, but it will go. I add it to the mental list of structures to avoid during heavy wind. When I finally climb onto my roof, the sky has cleared enough to show a strip of blue between the towers. The air smells of wet stone and dirty river. I hang my jacket and shirt over the makeshift clothesline, wring out my socks and check the barrels. The storm refilled them nicely. Small blessing. I cook a thicker meal than usual that night. Dried vegetables from the farmers. A bit of rice from my own stash. A handful of dried fish. I let it simmer until the flavors blend. The smell makes my stomach twist with hunger. Food is good, but hot food is still a miracle. I eat slowly, letting my body catch up with the day. As I sit by the low fire, I spread out the small scrap of plastic where I keep my written marks. It is not much of a map, but I jot down new notes from today. Parking garage collapse near the east channel. Gang rafts by the bridge. Leaning bank tower on the west route. Roman's boat confirmed. Fuel runs possible. I print each word carefully with the bit of charcoal. If I lose my memory one day, I want something for whoever finds this roof to use. I think about Mark. About Liam now hauling dirt in the rooftop garden, about Sarah and her quiet grief, about the rafts near the bridge, full of men who probably do not remember their last real job, about Roman, comfortable around engines and maps, still cold enough to shut a door on a stranger when the dead came. about myself, running threads between all of them for a handful of dried vegetables and pills. I could leave this city, maybe, take the canals out toward the open water, skirt the edges of Staten Island and the Jersey coast, look for the coalition Roman mentioned on the radio, try my luck in some other half-drowned town. The thought always stalls on the same point. Out there, I know nothing. No currents, no nests, no gangs, no safe roofs. Here, I at least understand which parts want to kill me the fastest. So I stay. I move between flooded avenues and drowned lobbies. I trade, I watch. I drag small bits of order out of a place that wants to slide into full chaos. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes someone dies anyway, no matter how many routes I memorize or deals I make. The world does not hand out fair endings. And that's where we'll stop for now. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me how the story hit you, what moments worked, what didn't, and what you'd want to hear next. And a big thank you to everyone supporting the channel, especially with extra membership: Carlos Herrera, The Great Anywho, Jadala, Madam Midnight, Deborah Powell, William Blackwell. You keep this project alive. Until next time, Survivor. Jack's Nightmares signing off.